Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, serving a 20-year sex trafficking sentence, meets for a second time with Donald Trump's criminal lawyer turned Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche to see if the FBI and the Justice Department might have also needed her to commit suicide. Maxwell's lawyer, David Oscar Marcus, saying after the interrogations, Ghislaine Maxwell gave up 100 persons of interest, but the New York Times cautions that those 100 people could be a combination of victims, accomplices, and other men who sexually abuse the victims. This, as Speaker Mike Johnson shuts down the entire House of Representatives for the summer, insisting he will not be bullied by Democrats into forcing a vote on demanding to see the Epstein files. Instead, Mike Johnson prefers getting bullied by Donald Trump into buying more time before the White House can figure out how to bury this story. Perhaps bombing the Middle East again? I'm just spitballing, but that might work. Do I smell more airstrikes over Iran or Yemen? Or maybe that's Theo Von's breath. But, Yemen and Iran, we know how successful those bombing missions were. The Houthis stopped firing missiles at ships in the Red Sea and into Israel, and Iran's nuclear program completely stopped. Oh, wait, I just made that up. But, I can be certain that Donald Trump is telling Defense Chief Pete Hegseth the Epstein story won't go away, so let's put this military of ours to good use and create a diversion. Meanwhile, what the hell is in Ghislaine Maxwell's box? News helicopters Thursday captured video of Maxwell carrying a box into her meeting with the Deputy Attorney General. How is it remotely possible nobody from the Justice Department or the Bureau of Prisons ever saw the contents of that box until now? Since when are federal inmates allowed to bring their secret documents into prison? I have to believe Maxwell smuggling a box that large into prison would have been spotted during her cavity search. Or maybe, just maybe, Ghislaine is simply decluttering her prison cell closet and wanted to know if Trump's Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, would like some of her blouses that no longer spark joy. Bloomberg reporting Trump seen here standing next to his press secretary's power bosoms. Trump, on his way to Scotland, said on Friday that he could pardon Maxwell, but hasn't given it much thought. Sure he hasn't, because that's the entire point of sending down to Florida Todd Blanche, who was Trump's defense lawyer right up until Trump named him Deputy Attorney General, because Trump hasn't given any thought to pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. But head of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, who just this week subpoenaed Maxwell to testify before his committee, now saying he would be opposed to Trump pardoning Maxwell. Unless, of course, Mein Fuhrer thinks it's a good idea, in which case I wholeheartedly agree. One of the guys whose January 6th seditious conspiracy sentence Trump commuted, Stuart Rhodes, founder of the Oath Keepers, now saying it's disheartening that Trump calls the Epstein story a hoax. Stuart Rhodes warned if the president continues to obfuscate, it's going to cause the White House a lot of trouble. Suddenly, Rhodes doesn't like Trump's obfuscation. The guy commutes your 18-year sentence for attempting to overthrow the United States government, and suddenly you find obfuscation unseemly. But Trump continues to call the Epstein story a hoax and is blaming the radical left. People like former FBI Director James Comey, a lefty from way back, James Comey, along with other lefties like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton for manufacturing the entire Epstein hoax, the same way he says they manufactured Russiagate. And damn, these radical lefties, they are so good at what they do when they try to frame an innocent man like Donald Trump. You see, they knew Trump was going to run for president all the way back in 1993 when they staged this photograph of Jeffrey Epstein hanging out with Donald Trump and Trump's two children, Eric and Ivanka, at the Harley Davidson Cafe, a restaurant celebrating Harley Davidsons. Shame on you, Donald Trump. Motorcycles are suicide traps. What kind of father exposes his 2 kids to motorcycles at such an early age? What kind of father allows his 12-year-old daughter, Ivanka, to hang around motorcycles? But the radical left is incredible. They knew Trump was going to be president nearly 30 years ago when they forged this copy of Trump's autobiography found in Epstein's library, signed supposedly by Trump, obviously a forgery, with the words, quote, "To Jeff, you are the greatest," unquote. That was planted in Epstein's library nearly 30 years ago by the radical left, all part of their master plan to discredit Trump for when he eventually becomes president. The radical left is so good at what they do. It's why we have Medicare for all, universal daycare, and free tuition at all public colleges and universities, because the radical left, with George Soros pulling the strings, they are so good at getting whatever it is they want: an end to mass starvation in Gaza, taxing billionaires out of existence, and putting the entire fossil fuel industry out of business. They got all of that because they're the radical left. They play 6-dimensional chess. They're thinking hundreds of moves ahead, like inviting Jeffrey Epstein to Trump's 1993 Marla Maples wedding. There's Epstein arriving, but Trump, he didn't invite Epstein. Trump had no idea who Epstein was. But Epstein was in on this 30-year plan to destroy Trump. We all know Epstein was with Mossad and the CIA, and of course the deep dark state, who've been manufacturing hoaxes against Donald Trump going all the way back to the 1980s, right after Trump became a KGB asset handled by Vladimir Putin. Now, maybe it's the MK Ultra mind control talking, but come on, connect the dots, people. Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, was a Mossad agent. He died 30 years ago, right when the Mossad and our CIA recruited Ghislaine and Epstein to destroy Trump, because Trump's obviously on a secret mission to put an end to child sex trafficking. Epstein was in on the massive conspiracy to bring Trump down. Again, this might be the MK Ultra mind control talking, but Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein obviously conspired to arrange for a deposition in March of 2010 to have Epstein questioned by an attorney representing one of the accusers. This is 2010, 5 years before Trump even entered politics. But look how the radical left planted the seeds for Trump's destruction, because it's all a hoax, and Epstein was in on it. This is the work of Mossad, the CIA, George Soros, Tom Hanks, Wilford Brimley, Alex Trebek, and Hillary Clinton to destroy Donald Trump's good name.
Ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
Hoax, hoax, hoax. And that's not going to stop the Trump administration from moving forward, focusing on the American people. Trump will not go back. That's why his director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, just made a criminal referral to the Justice Department asking Pam Bondi to look into Barack Obama's manipulation of the intelligence community in order to make it look like Russia was attempting to influence the 2016 presidential election in Trump's favor. That's how forward-looking the Trump administration is, launching an investigation into something that happened 9 years ago, because this is what the American people want our FBI and Justice Department to focus on. It makes us feel safe. In making the announcement, Tulsi Gabbard, a truth teller, at least in QAnon circles. She called Russiagate, quote, a years-long coup against the Trump White House. Obama, she said, tried to stage a coup, and Trump hates coups. Just ask the 1,500 January 6ers he pardoned. As far as Trump's concerned, elections are sacred, and presidents like Obama must not interfere. Leave that to the professionals like Donald Trump. White House press spokeswoman and Ivanka Trump's stunt double, Caroline Leavitt, said Obama planned a, quote, treasonous conspiracy against Donald Trump. Wow. Treason against Donald Trump? Not against the United States government. Far, far worse. Treason against Donald Trump. And then our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, went to the podium and said she agreed wholeheartedly with Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt's choice in Revlon's radiant blonde fantasy colors, as well as her assessment of Obama's attempt to interfere with the 2016 presidential election. Because this is what the American people want. They want the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, they want her to announce, as she just did, that she's opened up an investigative strike force to look into our intelligence community's role in spreading the Russiagate hoax. Republican Senators Lindsey Graham and John Cornyn said they want Trump to appoint a special counsel to get to the bottom of the role our intelligence community played in Russiagate. A special counsel? You mean like the Mueller report? Special counsel Robert Mueller, who was hired by the first Trump administration and concluded that Russia did, in fact, interfere with the 2016 presidential election, hoping Trump would win. That special counsel? Or maybe the special counsel John Durham, who led the Durham investigation that began in 2019 when Bill Barr was Attorney General and Trump wanted to prove the Obama's FBI weaponized Russiagate to embarrass him. U.S. Attorney John Durham was appointed special counsel by Trump to look into how Obama weaponized the FBI to make it look like Putin stole the 2016 presidential election for Trump. Well, in May of 2023, the Durham report finally came out, and much to the chagrin of Republicans, it found zero evidence to suggest that the Mueller report was wrong when it concluded Vladimir Putin interfered in the 2016 presidential election on behalf of Donald Trump. All the Durham report could find was a predisposition on the part of the FBI to investigate Trump. A predisposition to investigate Trump. You mean probable cause? Well, congressional Republicans went ballistic on special counsel John Durham because despite being appointed by Trump, Durham found absolutely nothing. Well, actually, he did. He found something. He and Bill Barr traveled to Italy and met with their intelligence agencies, and according to the New York Times, Bill Barr and John Durham found evidence of suspicious financial dealings involving Donald Trump. But Durham and Barr decided that's not germane to the report. A White House source is now telling NBC News that Trump will not appoint a special counsel. Lindsey Graham and John Cornyn want a special counsel, but Trump will not appoint a special counsel to look into Obama's treason. Trump feels Pam Bondi can handle this all on her own. No, that's not why. A special counsel is independent and can't be handled by Trump all on his own. And word is Bondi got caught completely by surprise on this. Tulsi Gabbard tossed the Obama treason investigation into Bondi's lap without giving her a heads up. And Bondi is privately complaining she's weighted down, with everyone in the Trump administration trying to get in good with Mein Fuhrer by making criminal referrals to her Justice Department, which, thanks to firing everyone involved in the January 6th investigation, is woefully understaffed. Meanwhile, former President Obama called Trump's accusations that Obama committed treason, he called it nothing more than a distraction from the Epstein files. Now, where would Barack Obama get an idea like that? Trump doesn't need any distractions. He's on top of the Epstein story, and he's controlling the narrative. Here is Trump being asked about Pam Bondi telling him that his name is all over the Epstein files. Watch as Donald Trump masterfully controls the narrative.
And I would say that, these files were made up by Comey. They were made up by Obama. They were made up by the Biden information. We went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it.
He's in complete control. What an idiot. Well, to prove the investigation into the Russia hoax, into Barack Obama isn't a distraction, to prove that they don't need to distract, Tulsi Gabbard also announced she's releasing thousands of previously classified Martin Luther King assassination documents. Now, why would the director of national intelligence release the Martin Luther King files, which are salacious, which Dr. King's family asked her not to release because they include illegal wiretapping of Dr. King, illegal wiretapping of King engaging in personal behavior not befitting a man of his stature? Why would Tulsi Gabbard take the extraordinary leap of releasing salacious, classified documents proving Dr. King wasn't a saint, documents that have nothing to do with finding out who assassinated him? Why would she release those documents this week if she were trying to distract from the Epstein story? I'm confused. I don't understand. Anyway, she's not trying to distract. That's all I know. Speaker Mike Johnson, in a rare moment of clarity yesterday, said the Epstein story is not a hoax. And here is Mike Johnson an hour later begging Donald Trump for forgiveness. By the way, Johnson said the Epstein story is not a hoax during an interview with CBS News, whose parent company, Paramount, just got permission from the FCC to sell the whole operation to billionaire Larry Ellison's idiot son for $8 billion. Referring to CBS's settlement with Trump over a frivolous defamation lawsuit, the company would have not only won, but they would have had their legal fees paid for by Trump. Senator Elizabeth Warren said, sure looks like they paid Donald Trump $36 million for this merger. Bribery is illegal no matter who is president. This is the Mop-Up. I'm David Feldman in New York City. Thank you so much for finding me. Please like this episode so I remain in your feed. Hit the notification bell. Share it with your friends. Roy Black, Jeffrey Epstein's attorney who helped negotiate Epstein's original sweetheart agreement with the Justice Department in 2008, died at the age of 80. As part of Black's deal for his soul, he will be allowed to leave hell 6 days a week, 20 hours a day for work-related activity, but must return to perdition before sundown each night. That would be Epstein's attorney. Trump's criminal attorney, Todd Blanche, who moonlights as our nation's deputy attorney general and heads the Justice Department's Protect Donald Trump at All Costs criminal division. He met with Ghislaine Maxwell again on Friday. He met with her twice because what else does the Deputy Attorney General of the United States have to do? What else is he going to do? Investigate Medicare fraud? I mean, it's not like there's any white-collar crime that needs looking into. Senate Minority Leader Democrat Chuck Schumer said Blanche's meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, quote, stinks of high corruption, and then Schumer excused himself to meet with fossil fuel lobbyists holding envelopes stuffed with cash. But before leaving, Schumer demanded the Justice Department provide the U.S. Senate with a closed-door briefing on everything that's in those Epstein files. Yeah, you go, Chuck Schumer. That's good. Or you could try to win back the Senate in 2026 by forcing votes on increasing the minimum wage or Medicare for all, but knock yourself out, Chuck Schumer, because you know better than I do on how to win. And you know that when it comes to kitchen table issues, the bread and butter concerns that American voters really care about, it's what's in those Epstein files. That's how you win elections, by proving Donald Trump is slightly more tied to Jeffrey Epstein than Bill Clinton. That's how you win the midterms, by demanding full transparency so voters know Republicans should be just a tiny more embarrassed by what's in those Epstein files than the Democrats should be. Meanwhile, a Florida judge ruled that the Epstein grand jury testimony will remain sealed just days after Pam Bondi requested the testimony be released to the public after she went through it and determined there's nothing in there incriminating Trump. Thursday, Pam Bondi had to cancel her appearance at a CPAC conference on human trafficking due to a torn cornea. A torn cornea? Christ! What did she see in those files that blew out her cornea? What video was it that made Pam Bondi claw at her eyes? This job is getting to Bondi. You know, she's like Oedipus pulling out his eyes after realizing he just had sex with his mother. But in Oedipus's mother's defense, she tried to warn her son. She said, "Put that away, you'll poke somebody's eye out with that thing." And she was right. Was it Jocasta? Was that Oedipus's mother? Well, I'm depressed. Where was I? Right. As I just said, Pam Bondi was supposed to speak at a human trafficking summit sponsored by Matt Schlapp of CPAC. Yes, that Matt Schlapp. He's holding a conference on human trafficking. Anybody know if it's a conference on preventing human trafficking or getting away with it? Some of you might recall Matt Schlapp had to pay $500,000 to a man accusing Schlapp of sexually assaulting him. A man. And countless other men have accused Schlapp of sexually assaulting them. And you know why Matt Schlapp is never accused of sexually assaulting women? He's opposed to DEI. Matt Schlapp doesn't feel like sexually assaulting women just because the radical left demands inclusivity. Jim Comer, the Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee, whose college girlfriend said he beat her up after they returned from the abortion clinic, Jim Comer announced his committee has subpoenaed Ghislaine Maxwell and she will be testifying shortly. Well, I have something for you. Here is 100% real artificial intelligence. It's a photograph of Jim Comer delivering that subpoena personally to Ghislaine Maxwell's prison cell. That is not fake. That is real artificial intelligence. I typed into an artificial program, show me a picture of Jim Comer handing a red rose to Ghislaine Maxwell inside a prison, and artificial intelligence spit out this photograph. I have not altered this artificial intelligence at all. It is 100% genuine artificial intelligence made from pure Corinthian leather. And here is Jim Comer with Ghislaine Maxwell going over some of the videos Ghislaine Maxwell is probably going to want to introduce as evidence when she testifies. This has not been altered at all. I used an artificial intelligence program to create this photograph. I typed into my artificial intelligence software, create an image of Jim Comer and Ghislaine Maxwell Netflixing and chilling. And this is what artificial intelligence spat out. I have not altered this at all. It's 100% real artificial intelligence. Nobody has touched or tampered with this fake photograph. Anyway, Bill Barr was the Attorney General back in 2019 when the whole Epstein story broke. Trump was president. The FBI seized from Epstein's apartment 40 computer and electronic devices, 26 storage drives, more than 70 CDs, 6 recording devices, and 10,000 videos kept in Jeffrey Epstein's vault. Trump was president. It was 2019. And right after Epstein killed himself, Bill Barr, I'm going to show you the proof that I made up through artificial intelligence. Bill Barr met personally with Ghislaine Maxwell. How do I know this? Because I used artificial intelligence to create a photograph of the two meeting together. That's how I know. This has not been altered. It's 100% unaltered artificial intelligence. I have not changed anything here. Well, okay, you're going to see some very disturbing video that I manufactured through artificial intelligence. The only thing I did is I edited down some of the artificial intelligence, added sound effects to make it look even more realistic. That's all I did after I photoshopped Bill Barr and Ghislaine Maxwell together in a restaurant. All I did was feed that Photoshop into my artificial intelligence software and asked it to spit out a video of the two of them eating and laughing. And then all I did was drag that video produced by artificial intelligence into Premiere Pro. I added some sound, and then I cut around the artificial intelligence video that wasn't realistic enough. And this is what I made, and I'm about to show you this. Please keep in mind, it's very disturbing, and it has not been tampered with after I tampered with it. I exported the finished product from Premiere Pro using artificial intelligence, and after I exported the product from Premiere Pro, it was never altered. The chain of custody is secure. It's 100% untampered artificial intelligence made from pure Corinthian leather that I enhanced only using Photoshop, artificial intelligence, and Premiere Pro. It's very disturbing. Watch.
This is the best sandwich I've ever had.
I know, right? Open wide. Oh my gosh.
What are you doing?
Is it good?
Oh, this is the best sandwich. This is the best sandwich I've ever had.
I know, right? Open wide.
Again, I haven't altered that in any way after it was produced through artificial intelligence, Photoshop, and Premiere Pro. It's pretty damning stuff. Bill Barr needs to answer for that. As I was saying, the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, under the leadership of Jim Comer, has officially subpoenaed Ghislaine Maxwell. Comer's committee has a subcommittee chaired by Louisiana Congressman Clay Higgins, who used to be a police officer until let's just say too many black people complained. I've been all over the allegations against Clay Higgins, who could no longer be a police officer, so he turned to politics, and besides using his congressional seat to say horribly racist, homophobic, and misogynistic things, Clay Higgins often accuses the FBI of orchestrating the January 6th insurrection. Anyway, Clay Higgins has a subcommittee that just voted to subpoena the entire contents of the Epstein files. According to the Washington Post, Clay Higgins' subcommittee also voted to subpoena Bill and Hillary, Joe Biden, former FBI Director James B. Comey, former Attorneys General Merrick Garland, William Barr, Jeff Sessions, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, and Alberto Gonzales, as well as former special counsel Robert Mueller, to find out what they knew about Jeffrey Epstein and when they knew it. Sounds exciting, but that's never going to happen. Those hearings are never going to happen because even Republicans know Congressman Clay Higgins is 6 NFL players short of a gangbang. If you catch my drift, the man can't be trusted. He's not all there. He can't be trusted to run those kind of hearings. And according to the rules, Clay Higgins' subcommittee can vote to issue subpoenas. They can vote to hold hearings, but all of that must be first cleared by the man who oversees Clay Higgins' subcommittee, and that would be the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Jim Comer, whose college girlfriend says he beat her up after they came home from the abortion clinic. Well, in the past, I suggested Democrats needed to turn the page on Epstein politically. I said that there's no political hay to be made boxing Republicans into the corner on Jeffrey Epstein because Republicans control the hearings. And we saw what they did with Hunter Biden. They can take a nothing story and keep it alive for years, even though it's garbage. So, do I want to get to the bottom of Jeffrey Epstein? Of course I do. I just don't think it's going to help Democrats in next year's midterms, especially since people like Bill Clinton are all over the Epstein files, as is all of Harvard University, a bastion of liberal democratic politics. I also think a lot of the powerful men were tricked by Epstein into being seen with Epstein, even though they didn't do anything illegal. Again, of all the powerful politicians in the Epstein files, right now, Trump seems to be the guiltiest. Too many victims of Epstein have named him, okay? But Thomas Massie, the rogue House Republican from Kentucky, he's not afraid of standing up to Trump or AIPAC. Thomas Massie is pushing a discharge petition to force a vote on demanding the Epstein files get released. It's bipartisan. He did, however, offer a caveat where he said, just because someone's name is all over the Epstein files, it doesn't mean that person committed any crimes. Okay? So, maybe they're guilty of lacking judgment, but Epstein was very good at courting the rich and powerful, seducing them, not necessarily with underage girls or women, but also with promises to hook them up with wealthy donors to their charitable foundations and startups. This is a photograph that has not been altered. It is believed to be real, and I'm being serious here. You know, I'll tell you when I've doctored a photograph. This has not been doctored. It is a photograph supposedly taken in 2002. That would be 1 year after Bill Clinton left office, and he is allegedly getting a massage from Chantou Davies, who testified about being trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. The photograph was taken after Bill Clinton, Jeffrey Epstein, and Kevin Spacey flew on Epstein's private plane to Africa. It was for a charity that Clinton was setting up. When they landed, Clinton reportedly complained he had a sore neck, and Ghislaine Maxwell immediately insisted Chantou Davis, who was being trafficked by Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, that she rub Bill Clinton's neck. Davies said Clinton was a complete gentleman, made no suggestive comments, and there was nothing sordid about this brief neck massage. Okay? She also testified that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell would make her dress in clothing that resembled a pilot's uniform to make it look like she was part of the crew. So Clinton had no idea who she was. All that being said, this picture speaks volumes, but everything it says is a lie. Clinton did nothing wrong. But it doesn't matter because so far a picture of Donald Trump in a picture of Donald Trump in a similar compromising position doesn't yet exist. This photograph of Bill Clinton was snapped by Ghislaine Maxwell, the same way Jeffrey Epstein snapped that picture of Prince Andrew. Now I'm going to say some things here that I know a lot of you are going to disagree with, okay? I know it. But I'm going to say some things you're going to disagree with. But Clinton probably had no problem being photographed because he had no idea this woman was being trafficked. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest Prince Andrew had no idea the woman he had sex with 3 times, that woman, he had no idea that this woman was being trafficked by Epstein. That's why I believe Andrew stupidly allowed this photo to be taken by Epstein. I'm not defending any of Prince Andrew's behavior or Bill Clinton's. I'm saying Epstein was a predator, okay? And he took advantage of girls and powerful men. Prince Andrew had sex with a woman trafficked by Epstein, but she was the age of consent. So Andrew wasn't raping minors. He was having sex with a woman trafficked by Epstein. What do you think much, if not practically all, prostitution is? The uncomfortable truth about prostitution is most of these women are being trafficked and are too afraid to say, "Help me." Did Prince Andrew know this woman was being trafficked? I don't know. Leave a comment. I've read as much as I possibly can about this. I think Epstein probably said to Prince Andrew, this woman, she was a woman, she was not underage at this time. This woman really likes you and wants to have sex with you. I don't know. And if so, if that's the case, did Prince Andrew commit any crimes? I don't know. If a man is told by a pimp, I mean, that's what Jeffrey Epstein was, if Jeffrey, and he didn't know that Jeffrey Epstein was a pimp because Andrew wasn't paying for sex. If Jeffrey Epstein says, you know, I have a girl working for me, Prince Andrew, who wants to have sex with you, and then Prince Andrew has sex with her, not knowing she's being trafficked, is Prince Andrew committing a crime? Now, I know Andrew should have known better. He should have been a better judge of character. And I'm sure many of you are saying, how could he not know the woman was being trafficked? But then again, men believe what they want to believe when they're in the throes of lust. And the American people believe what they want to believe when they see a photo like this, or like this photo of Bill Clinton getting an innocent neck rub from one of Epstein's victims who testified Clinton did nothing sordid. Is it a crime to get a neck rub from a woman being trafficked if you don't know she's being trafficked? People see what they want to see. If you're a Republican, you're going to say, how could Clinton not know? I'm a Democrat. I say Clinton didn't know. But we do know that Bill Clinton, after leaving the Oval Office, flew on Jeffrey Epstein's jet 26 times. According to the reporting on this, the FBI files showed Epstein's list of contacts had 21 different phone numbers for Bill Clinton. So what does that mean? Well, to me, it means Clinton flew on Epstein's jet 26 times and on 21 separate occasions gave Epstein a different phone number. Does that sound like Clinton was trying to get close to Epstein or more distance? It means he was keeping his distance. Do you think Hillary has 21 separate phone numbers for Bill and has to try each one before finally getting through to him? Okay, wrong marriage. But Bill Clinton, like all of us, has one personal phone number, and Epstein didn't have it. That being said, we know that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell had visited Clinton inside the White House as early as 1993. And Clinton's message is featured prominently in Epstein's 50th birthday book, but so is Trump's. And Trump's includes some cryptic message about the two of them sharing a dirty secret, and then Trump drew a woman's breast and some pubic hair. Clinton's message was distant and remote. But we also know from the White House visitors' logs that Jeffrey Epstein visited the Clinton White House 17 times from 1993 until 1995. Jeffrey Epstein's first visit to the Clinton White House was February 25th, 1993. Clinton had only been president for a little more than a month, and Epstein was already visiting him. Again, this was more than a decade before anyone knew who Jeffrey Epstein really was. But some say visitors' logs to the White House can be inaccurate and often undercount the time somebody visits the White House because it's easy to sneak someone in if they're identified as, say, a courier delivering a document, or if an aide brings them in. That means Epstein could have visited the White House, the Clinton White House, more than 17 times. Or it means Epstein visited the Clinton White House, but he wasn't visiting Bill Clinton. Who knows? But we do know one of Epstein's victims once said Epstein told her that Bill Clinton owes me a favor. And then there's this, the painting of Bill Clinton in the blue cocktail dress wearing red pumps, and I have to say those red pumps are very slimming. This painting was the very first thing visitors saw when they entered Jeffrey Epstein's New York City mansion. It was prominently displayed in the lobby. Why? Because Jeffrey Epstein was a sociopath. Because Jeffrey Epstein wanted to make it look like he was closer to Bill Clinton than he actually was, and that Bill Clinton was in on the joke. So, there are a lot of women coming forward claiming things about Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. Nobody's claiming anything bad about Bill Clinton, and yet, in terms of the visuals, if you want to traffic in false equivalencies and claim Clinton was just as bad as Trump, a lot of people in the MAGA universe are going to fall prey to such confirmation bias. The problem for MAGA is Clinton hasn't been president for 24 years. Donald Trump is. That's your problem, Donald Trump. So, what do I think? I think there should not be incredibly rich and powerful people in our country. It's un-American. There's a reason we have term limits when it comes to presidents. At least I hope we have term limits. There's a reason our founding fathers outlawed primogeniture, passing on the entire estate to the firstborn son, because our founding fathers didn't want an aristocracy. They didn't want Larry Ellison's idiot son having enough money to buy Paramount. So, I hope the Epstein files are released, and I hope they destroy everyone who deserves to be destroyed. Maybe I'm a defeatist, but I'm not counting on any of that. Because this isn't about the victims, and it's certainly not about putting an end to human trafficking. This is about one thing and one thing only: the politics of personal destruction, which I'm all for. If the Epstein scandal is making Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino have sleepless nights, I'm all for it. Any speed bump you can throw in Donald Trump's way, Let's do it. If the Epstein mess weighs Trump's presidency down and causes more infighting within the Republican Party and somehow makes room for any Republicans still left in Congress who know wrong from right to speak up, then I'm for it. If it sinks Trump's polling, if Republicans find Trump toxic and they start backing away from indulging his ambitions of a third term, I'm all for it. But let's not pretend this is anything other than the politics of personal destruction, which I'm all for. But let's not flatter ourselves. This is not Medicare for all, ending starvation in Gaza, taxing billionaires out of existence, redistributing the wealth, universal daycare, raising the minimum wage, getting money out of politics, protecting our most vulnerable, or free tuition at all public colleges and universities. All it is, it's a circular firing squad for the rich and powerful, but somehow it's going to be me and you getting shot. Bring it on. Let's see the files. But let's keep our eye on the prize, the midterms. Is any of this going to put Democrats in charge of the House or Senate after the 2026 midterms? I could be wrong, but I don't think so. The planet's on fire. Republicans just slashed Medicaid and food stamps, and they're coming for your Social Security. That's the beginning of a winning message for Democrats. Jeffrey Epstein isn't a winning message. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. Please share this episode with like-minded people. Thank you to Bob and Mila in the chat room for keeping the conversation civil. If I made any mistakes, leave a comment. I read all your comments. Whatever you have to say, let me know. Please like this episode so I remain in your feed. Please subscribe to my newsletter and my channel. Thank you for listening.